Oh, we are recording. What up, y'all? It's your girl Delia from Philly Eagles here. I'm here with a special guest, Patrice Lynn. And the reason I have her here is because she is a female who loves her football.
Yes.
So we were doing another interview for this Kingdom
Yeah.
Health Summit that I've told you about, where we had Dr. Meyer on talking about CBD. Now, I want Patrice to share her little football cred with you and how she helped our Eagles win the Super Bowl.
That's right.
Very important information here. So, Patrice, how did you get into football?
Well, my dad was a football player. He played for Rice University and he went to 2 bowl games. And when I grew up, if it was, my parents divorced when I was really young, but if it was a weekend that my dad had my sister and I, and football was on in the fall, we were going to be watching football, and we watched the Cleveland Browns and Jim Brown running down the field. You know, that was before the passing game came in and it was all running. And I just remember on that little tiny TV watching him run down the field. It was so exciting. So I got hooked on football. Then, of course, in high school, football team were state champions, and I went to college and Bowling Green State University in Ohio, and they won the national champions. Then I went to Montana State, and then they became champions. So it kind of started this pattern of you know, wherever I went, people were winning. So I was telling Delia that I lived in Washington State, and I was following the Seahawks, and the Seahawks went to Super Bowl and won. And then just a couple of years later, I moved to Denver, Colorado, only for 2 years. And for the first time in 20 years, they went to the Super Bowl and won. Then I traveled to Philadelphia for a business conference. And like 3 or 4 months later, the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. And then I moved to California. And in the last 2 years, 2 of the California teams have gone to the Super Bowl. Didn't quite get the win. But anyway, I'm feeling like quite the good luck charm. And I was thinking, you know, if I could have got one of those California teams in the Super Bowl, I was going to go to the NFL for my contract, $1 million, and I'll move wherever you want me to. Because I'm kind of a good luck charm when it comes to football.
Seriously, like, you need to go back to Philly this year,
Yes,
real quick.
that's
Just
right.
say hello, and you can be on your way. Just show them some love, because
Exactly.
you know, I could use another Super Bowl. Because when the Eagles won their first Super Bowl, I was super pregnant and couldn't move and ended up in the hospital like 2 days later.
Gosh.
So I'd like a redo on that.
Yeah, that would be helpful. No, that was one of the best Super Bowl games of all times when they won. Oh, I was just so thrilled. I was just so happy for them. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, and
that was like a fight to the finish, man. That was a heavyweight knockout there.
Oh, I know. And Nick Foles, like, there was a strong presence of God within that team as well. Like Nick Foles, Carson Wentz, and like in between games, players were getting baptized, and like there was just, and the coach Doug Peterson, all super faith driven.
Really?
And I'm like, dude, like, God won us that Super Bowl. God and Nick Foles biohacking, like those two things.
I'm telling you. And the fact that he came in there after Carson was injured and won that thing, I mean, that's a lot of pressure. And he just was like, no problem, we got this.
I know. And I was at the game. Carson Wentz got injured.
Oh, really?
Like,
oh.
They
were doing so good, and you kind of assume like, well, if the quarterback's out, they're probably not gonna, get the big Super Bowl win, but they did it.
I was sad in the moment, but I've always loved Nick Foles. Like, my first tailgate I ever hosted with all my PhilaDehlia crew was Nick Foles. When Nick Foles was starting with the Eagles at Oakland Raiders Stadium, and he threw 7 touchdowns and tied Peyton Manning's record for most touchdowns in a game. So ever since then, I was like, Nick Foles can do miracles.
Yeah, 7 touchdowns. Wow.
Yeah. So I've always had faith, and I'm so glad he is the poster guy for our Super Bowl win. So yay, Nick Foles, we love you. So, before we close out here, though, I want you to give people a taste of what we ended up talking about in our health summit, because again, like, you guys are family, like my subscribers. I love you guys. I've been away being a mommy, and that's gotten me into health and wanting to care for my family. But you guys are family too. So I want to care for you and give you the same knowledge I'm coming across. And yes, some of
Awesome.
it may sound crazy, but I want to help you if you're like looking for something to up your game in your health. Like, here's some options. So with Patrice, we were actually talking about EMFs and 5G and all that stuff
Yes.
and what it means for us in our bodies. And she has a wonderful story. So can you give us a quick teaser on what we dug into in our 1 hour conversation?
Yes. Yeah. Basically, I was a little bit in the camp, even though I had a friend that wrote this book called Zapped, and she's a famous nutritionist. She wrote the Fat Flush Plan. That's her most famous book. But she got a tumor in her neck that was benign, but she realized it was because she was holding her cell phone up to that ear, and that's how she got it. So she did this whole book. But afterwards, I said, well, how's the book selling? And she said, well, it's kind of the inconvenient truth that nobody wants to talk about or know. And she said, so it's not really selling that well, to tell you the truth. And at the time, I thought some of it, her extreme measures that she took were a little over the top, until I had my own experience. So I had a smart thermostat put in outside my bedroom, and immediately I was waking up at 12, 1, 2 in the morning, couldn't sleep, and figured out after 2 weeks it was because of that smart thermostat, and it was generating this Wi-Fi signal constantly. So we had to take it out, and that's when I started realizing, okay, all this EMF stuff and all this, electromagnetic field, radiation, all this really does impact our lives and our health. And that's when I took steps to make changes, eliminate the Wi-Fi, get my computer hardwired and all that. And then recently I found out about these key shields where they can set up a protection, because when all that bad stuff comes in, it barrages you with protons, and it wants to come into your body, take the electrons, which can set up inflammation and disease, and it can set up, affect your DNA and, the free radicals and all that stuff. So when you have this, it generates millions of electrons. So it creates the negative ions to balance out the positive, and then it neutralizes the impact of it. So it's really the best way to deal with this situation that we have right now.
Wonderful. So yeah, if you
Yeah.
guys want a little more details on that, you can check her out, the Brain Boss,
Yeah.
or go to the Kingdom Health Summit. I'll have the links in the description. And that's
Yes.
really it. So giving you a little taste of
Yeah.
the healthy side, and hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.